Hello everybody, my name is John Tarrant and I'm the e-safety and e-learning manager for education, which means I'm responsible both for digital safeguarding in schools across the island and also for facilitating innovative e-learning projects, which obviously is quite a challenge, but education generally is a big challenge, not least because what we're trying to do is educate children today for their futures that they will lead tomorrow. And part of that, of course, is the jobs that they will do, some of which don't even exist today. So we're trying to educate them very, very broadly. I came across some research a couple of weeks ago. It's only just been published by the UK workforce organisation called eSkills, and that's looking at one particular area of work known as big data. And I'm going to share this with you. Say this is very, very new. This was only published last month. The big data is sometimes described as the oil that fuels the digital economy. And what I want to point out here is if you look at these figures in terms of average salary, that average salaries in IT generally, 2013, 27,000. In premium jobs, 42,000, and in big data jobs, 55,000. So this is quite a valuable area in which to be working. And the map on the left is showing you growth areas. So geographically, everywhere except the northeast, there's significant growth is expected in this area. So one of the interesting things from an educational point of view is what do employers require for people who are going to work in this area? And the answer is they require a combination of both hard skills and soft skills. And the hard skills are subject matter expertise. It's the ability to think logically, to use particular techniques and technical skills. These soft skills are the problem solving, the creative thinking, the ability to imagine an answer rather than just deducing an answer. And that's important, but it's perhaps more important to think about what this big data thing means in practice. And I've got a video that I'm going to show you. But first of all, sorry, I can't remember the order of my slides. I just want to look at the amount of data there is out there. There's lots of these kinds of graphics that you can find on the web. I just happened to choose this one from Intel. The interesting thing about it is this looking at IP-based web traffic. As you can see, Netflix and YouTube put together account for more than half of the traffic that goes out there. But perhaps more importantly is if you look sort of further down this spectrum, in terms of the number of ads that are deployed, the amount of content that's shared, and the amount of value that is exchanged on the internet in just 1 minute. As I say, I want to show you a video to show you what this actually looks like in practice, and you will know, because of the context, what the denouement of the video is. But what I'd like you to do is to look at the various strands that are pulled together as the story unfolds. So if you can just click on the video link for me. the interesting thing about that, of course, is the various strands that are pulled together within the story. In terms of where that started, obviously, if you choose random people off the street and you're trying to do that very, very quickly, I think we can assume that the mind reader knew the first name of the person who was being interviewed, but probably not the full name. The other thing that you would Google, of course, to find out about people is if you had a closed-circuit camera, then you could take a picture of them. You could Google using Google Images or some other similar engine. So you've got a first name and a picture. Once you can match the two, then, of course, you can join together lots more information. And the reason why it's important is because children, of course, are starting off very, very young in the digital world and starting to create a digital footprint or a digital tattoo or a digital fingerprint, whatever you want to call it, from being very young. They need to be aware that whatever they do online is actually leaving this paper trail, this breadcrumb of information behind them. So that's the first thing that everybody needs to be aware about. It's quite a difficult message to get across to young people because they don't easily think about the future. I hope perhaps the two young people here are exceptions, but very often children sit in the back of the car saying, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" And that's just when you're driving, 10 minutes somewhere. And we're asking them to think about what's going to happen 10 years or 20 years or 30 years into the future. I've got some statistics here, and this is fairly predictable. This is to do with adult content and pornographic content. And a UK government survey, unsurprisingly, found that 2012 pornography is the thing that most parents most worry about in terms of harmful content that children might encounter. You can do various bits of research to see where people are going online, and ATVOD, the Association for Television on Demand, have been very actively involved in this. And what you can see is that a lot of young children will access inappropriate content and will access inappropriate content of quite an extreme nature. And there is, of course, a sort of local aspect to all of this. I pulled these two JP front pages. It's very nice of them to generate the stories, only a week before I'm giving this talk. So the police crackdown on illegal taxi service refers to Jersey lifts on Facebook. And obviously our internet terror suspect, the guy who uploaded the Al-Qaeda content onto 4chan, I think. So these are very local stories, things that are unsafe activities on the web and on the internet. The problem with all of this from a children's perspective is what is often known as a Martini effect, a ubiquitous effect, namely that there was a time not so long ago when if you had a computer at home, it was sitting in the lounge. And you knew what children were doing largely because you could actually walk past the computer. You might see something disappear off the screen as you approach, but it's fairly easy to see what's going on. When we started getting more Wi-Fi in the home, then, of course, people became able to move around, the children became able to move around anywhere they wanted, take their tablet into their bedroom. It's much harder to see what they're doing. On the other hand, what we're trying to do is to encourage responsibility anyway, so that's not necessarily an issue. But then, of course, now we've moved into an area where there's lots of very available cell phone networks with public data, and it's really important that you're able to secure that in some way as well. And Peter Zanino from Vodafone is going to talk about that after I finish my chat. There are really three core problems that you need to worry about, which are the problems related to the technologies themselves, the problems related to what children do, and the problems related to what other people do. And that's sometimes, abbreviated as the 3 C's, which are content, conduct, and contact. So we need to be aware of what those 3 things are, and we need to make children aware of what those 3 things are. There is a lot of inappropriate content out there, and it is very difficult to filter some of the inappropriate content. Some of it relates to adult content, some of it relates to what you could loosely call lifestyle content, and this is an example of lifestyle content. This isn't something that most web filters would block, but it's the kind of thing that will have an impression on young people. So in other words, a picture of a very skinny girl running across the beach, and the slogan, "It's okay to hate yourself if you aren't fit." No, it's not okay to hate yourself if you don't look like this. This is somebody's idea of what you should look like. But we need to be aware that children are very easily coming across this sort of imagery. And there was a report published by authored by Reg Bailey in 2011 on the commercialisation and sexualisation of childhood, which did call for there to be much more control over this sort of images. Not so much personal images, because it's very hard to control personal images, but the kind of images you see on billboard advertising and magazine advertising and in pop videos. You probably can't read it, but one of the other pictures on this feed also says, you can't have great abs if you eat. And that's even more blatant in terms of the kind of message it's trying to put out. And the sad thing about this is, although historically it was something that affected young girls, actually it's something that now can affect younger boys as well, if you are encouraged to believe you have to have this magnificent six-pack, and not everybody does have this magnificent six-pack. There's also content that celebrities are perhaps a little bit irresponsible in putting out there. This is a wife of a footballer who blogs under the name of Football Frau, and this was a picture that she put up 4 days after giving birth. That is not what most people look like 4 days after giving birth. And there was a lot of discussion about that. You can see from how far down the slider is, but I stopped it on this particular bit, where somebody who goes online as For Every Anna being short for anorexic, trying to point out the irresponsibility of these kind of pictures, obviously had a bit of a pop at her, and she's responded by saying, "Sit down, girl, this is not for you, dear, I'm simply telling the truth. That's why we have bulimia, anorexia, and other eating disorders." This is not Football Frau, this is other people having a conversation. And one of the interesting things about this that we need to realise, because it definitely applies when young people go online, is that things that happen in public, this is a public feed, are not always meant to be public. When people make comments, they often make comments privately. So the best possible example for that is if you have children and they're on Facebook, and the condition of them being on Facebook is that you are, as a parent, their friend on Facebook, so you can see what they're doing. The one thing you can absolutely guarantee is that nothing they put on their Facebook feed will be aimed at you. So you should never reply to anything they put up. So what I've got here, just as a bit of trying to update you with a bit of information really, is things that are currently popular. This is for September 2014, it comes from SimilarWeb. I hasten to point out this presentation is available online, so if you want to download it separately, then by all means do. On the left-hand side, all websites. This is for UK, by the way. So Facebook's top, big surprise there. Google.co.uk second, big surprise there. Google.com, YouTube, etc. What you'd expect, really. Social networking sites, again, Facebook top, then Twitter, then Tumblr. Free apps, Facebook top again, in the Messenger form, followed by WhatsApp Messenger, followed by Facebook of the page form. Interestingly, top grossing apps down here. So those are free apps, these are top grossing apps. Interesting thing. All of these top grossing apps are free, okay? They make money through things like in-app purchases, okay? And that's something you need to be aware of as well. If you have children who say they want to download and install something on their phone or on their iPad, and it's okay, mum, because it's free. Yes, it might be free to install, but it doesn't mean that it's completely free to use. So you need to be aware of that and have some controls in place. Sometimes we don't go by names. In fact, more and more now we don't go by names. It's a very visual kind of environment. And these are some of the icons that you might see on smartphones for some of the popular apps and apps that some children do use. I won't go through them all because there is a handout which you can pick up upstairs on my table, and again you can download it. It's an improved version of this list, which obviously doesn't have the little thumbnails in it, the little icons. The version that's on the table and the version you download does have the icons, and it lists a lot more things than this, and it also lists minimum ages, because a lot of people aren't aware of what the minimum age are. And the other thing it does, I've pulled out some extracts from the terms and conditions, because some of the terms and conditions are quite amusing and they're quite firm as well. So things like, I think it's YouTube, that says you have to be 13. There's no point in saying, oh, but I'm 12.9. No, if you're not 13, you don't use our service. That's what YouTube, or whichever one it is, actually say. Children will say, if they really want to use it, oh, but I'm very nearly 13. That's not the services line. I should also say these last two columns where I've got technology and behaviour, these are risk assessments. So in other words, if you look at something such as Omegle and Chat Roulette, which are random, anonymised online video chat, as far as I'm aware, there's no good aspect to that. You know, if you go online, you're connected to somebody totally randomly with a webcam. You don't know what you're going to see. You don't know who you're going to meet. It's not friends you know because it's random and it's anonymous. There's no good things about that. And some of the behaviour you see on it definitely is very, very dangerous. Hello.
Hi. Again, on the app I've got that connects to a Minecraft game, you can actually connect using voice chat as well.
You can, yes.
Which
Yes, I'm
is
sure.
dangerous.
Yes, and certainly some of the comments that people make. The worst thing about that, you're absolutely right, thank you very much for raising it, the worst thing about that, and I'm almost embarrassed to admit it, there are adults out there who think it's funny to wind up children who are actually on the voiced feed for online games, okay? There are people out there, adults, who think it's funny when you've got children online to go around knocking down your buildings. There are people out there who, if you go online and you're doing GTA, Grand Theft Auto, who think it's funny to find novices and just keep running them over just for the hell of it. Okay, there are people out there in Call of Duty who will do a similar sort of thing and just say, let's go have a game, with sniper scope and just constantly keep shooting the other guy because they think it's funny. Okay, there's an awful lot of very irresponsible behaviour. There's also some good stuff to Minecraft. I mean, Minecraft is a good problem-solving game, and there's an educational aspect to it as well. In fact, there is Minecraft Edu. But it's people, it's behaviour. It's this 3 C's. It's the content, the conduct, and the contact. You can be as well behaved and as trustworthy as possible, but there are other people out there who might try and subvert what you do. A little bit of research from the SPCC. Again, this is this year's research about the extent of problem content that's on the web. Really, the interesting bit is the last paragraph here. Other issues experienced by children who have been upset include pressure to act or look in a certain way. 14% is a very high figure, really, if you think about it. Cyber stalking, aggressive or violent language, that's in the could be in your voice chat on your games as well. Encouragement to hurt themselves is a low figure, but it's necessary. It's still very, very important. Unwanted sexual messages and requests to send sexual messages are worryingly high as well. Just to clarify a little bit of terminology, cyberbullies and trolls, obviously both things that can be very, very distressing online. Some people who do it are just attention seekers, and some people are just really pretty horrible people. Cyberbullying is aimed at individuals, trolling is normally aimed at a behaviour of some sort. It's very easy to demonise bullying and to think if you were to keep away from certain websites, and Ask.fm is a particularly often cited one, then actually all bullying would go away. That's not true. Okay, bullying is a behaviour. It's not a website. It's not a technology. It's what people do, not the tools they use. It's always happened. It's not good, but it's always been there. It's just different forms. Shutting down Ask.fm won't make the bullying go away. Interesting thing is it was David Cameron who suggested that we should shut down or block Ask.fm in the UK. There's actually more bullying on Facebook. And I would suggest the reason why he doesn't want to block Facebook is because 10 Downing Street are on Facebook, 10 Downing Street are not on Ask.fm. It's basically identify what children do, then make life miserable for the children while still ignoring all the hardships that exist in the forums which adults also populate. It's behaviour, it's not websites, and it's not technologies. It is really important that we keep everything in perspective. This is. I apologise in a way for quoting a book published in 2008 because I like to use up-to-date research all the time. But I think there's a lot to be said in this quote. We have to remember that the vast majority of what goes on online is actually positive. In addition to that, this bit in the middle, the roadblocks we think we are erecting, okay? People who rely on technological solutions are just erecting roadblocks and kind of deluding themselves because technology moves very fast. It's the behaviour that's the issue. It's the education that we want to achieve. The technology is great. The technology will help, but you can't rely on the technology. You use the technology to reinforce the behaviour modification. I'm going to finish with a video, but for that I just want to show you something that I recommend very highly that you go and read this post that was put on Huffington Post a couple of Christmases ago. And you get a feel for it from this little extract at the top. Below it, there is the actual contract. And it says things like, at some stage your iPhone will get damaged. You might drop it down the loo, you might just drop it on the floor, the screen will crack. When it gets damaged, you will have to pay for it. Okay, so think about that now. Start putting some of your pocket money aside. Okay. As I say, the link is there. The presentation will be downloaded, and you can track it down. Here's a couple of contracts that you can also download. One comes from the Wireless Federation, isn't it? Wireless Foundation. Sorry. Oops. It's a bit jumping around on this. But as I say, that Huffington Post has got the contract underneath it as well. So you can download those and use them if you want to. Right, I'm going to finish with a video. The video was a part of a campaign called Well Versed. It's introduced by a guy called Kick the PJ, who's a well-known YouTuber amongst the younger generation. And the great thing about it is it contains contributions from young people, showing that they know what they should do, they know what the risks and the dangers are, and they recognise the fact that there are mean people out there. So as I say, if you want to download the presentation, it's from es.sch.je. There's a handout upstairs, and the handout's also got the website address on it as well. The downloaded version doesn't have the videos embedded. It's just got the links, so you can find them separately as well.